had a friend whose funeral I performed about 3 months ago. He's a vibrant guy. He was active. He owned businesses that were extremely successful, and he had this insatiable need to help people. But over the course of some years, Alzheimer's began to take root, and it began to rob him of his faculties one by one until he could no longer operate those businesses, and he could no longer help anybody. And in his moments of frustration, during his lucid moments, even though he was a man of deep faith, he wondered, does my current life on this side of heaven actually have purpose if I can't do anything? He wrestled with that. I think that longing is universal, regardless of your worldview. It's presumably what brought you here today. There is that longing for this understanding of purpose. Now, I would say that the better explanation for that longing will take the idea of purpose seriously. It won't hand wave at what it is, and it won't offer us any illusions about what purpose actually is. That's why I think the best explanation for why we all crave purpose is that we were made purposefully, intentionally, by a God who designed us for a relationship with Him. That's the objective purpose of life. But within that objective purpose of life, there is a freedom, a genuine freedom, not an illusion of freedom, but an actual freedom to express yourself through the talents, passions, and hopes that you have individually in this life. Now, the universe in which we crave purpose cries out for explanation. It just simply does. And I don't think materialism provides you a good explanation, but I do think theism does. Everything around you, the chairs, this building, the air in the room, the stars, the galaxies themselves, and the universe itself, all could have been otherwise. They didn't have to be here. Philosophers call this contingency. Contingent things are things that don't explain themselves. They need an explanation outside of themselves to be explained. But you really can't have an infinite set of things that need external explanations. What you have to end up with at some point where you arrive is something that doesn't need an explanation outside of itself. It is self-explanatory by the very nature of the kind of thing it is. It is a necessary being. That just seems logically so. In order to explain the contingent things, you need a necessary thing. And even the universe itself, the building blocks of the universe itself, those things need an explanation outside of themselves because they could have been otherwise. Now, the thing that explains everything, the necessary thing that explains everything itself can't be physical or bound by space-time because the universe, the entirety of the universe, the physical universe, needs to be explained. And so the essential, I think, grounding and foundation of material reality is itself immaterial. Now, I could go into a whole lot of explanations about why I think that's the case and why that's a personal being as well, and there's a lot to do with the fine-tuning of the universe and all that stuff. I'm going to skip all of that for the sake of time. What I'd like to get to, though, is that immaterial foundation of the universe is conscious. And the reason I think that is because you and I are conscious. That foundation of everything didn't just produce chemistry. It produced you. It produced me. It produced the ability to have conscious thought. And consciousness is the most remarkable and extraordinary feature of existence. And it's the kind of feature of existence that I don't think materialism can adequately explain. In fact, most materialists would look at it and say, this is the hard problem of consciousness. It's literally called that. So immaterial consciousness that you have, the immaterial consciousness, is best explained by an immaterial conscious cause. So every thought you have right now is about something. Every single thought you have right now is about something, about this room, about your family, about whether you're agreeing with what I'm saying or not. That is what philosophers call aboutness or intentionality. But no mere physical thing has this property. I mean, a rock might be under a tree, but it is only in relation spatially to that tree. It doesn't have aboutness about the tree. It doesn't think about the tree. Rocks aren't about the trees they're next to. A set of neurons firing in your brain is not about Mozart's Requiem, and it's not about your grandma. It's just a physical event. And physical events are described by physical descriptions. And aboutness is neither of those things. Now, this isn't a gap waiting for better science to come along. This is a fundamental category difference. The fact that you have thoughts that aren't exactly the same as your brain states means that your thoughts are different than your brain states. So I'm saying that that fact that you have genuine thoughts about everything that's happening right now, you have genuine thoughts and feelings and judgments, that is a clue to the genuineness of your ability to actually choose and create purpose in this life. Because purpose itself is about aboutness. When you say your work has meaning or my marriage is purposeful, you're saying that those things are about something beyond mere existence. A purely material universe that needs to be explained by something immaterial outside of itself can't provide you with a genuine sense of thinking about things. And it can't provide you with a genuine sense that you can actually generate purpose. Both of those things, your consciousness and the will to be able to generate purpose, require something immaterial. They require mind. Now, if materialism is true, if that's all there is, then all that exists and all that happens is just matter in motion. And you don't genuinely think about things or come to conclusions. You believe the things you believe and you do the things you do because of cause and effect. Just those forces there, that's it. And it's driven by blind evolutionary forces. And you have no way to know, by the way, even if that's true. That's why Thomas Nagel, the philosopher and atheist, said that evolutionary naturalism implies that we shouldn't take any of our convictions seriously, including the scientific world picture on which evolutionary naturalism itself depends. In other words, he's saying you can't take your thoughts seriously because materialism simply can't give you any reason to do that. You know, there was a quote from a movie called Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead that I think about when it comes to this idea of purpose in a material world. There was a man who was dying in the movie, and he said, humanity is just a mustard burp, momentarily tangy and then gone with the wind. Gross but funny. Materialism can't give you genuine purpose because genuine purpose entails actual, genuine free will. It's just brain chemistry if there's no immaterial intentionality. You have the feeling of free will, but it's only an illusion. It's a fairy tale. Now, if a personal God did in fact make us intentionally for purpose, we want to know, what does that purpose look like? What shape does it take? Well, I think it takes several shapes and it can be individual to your life, but generally speaking, that purpose we're seeking is relational. We want what we do and who we are to matter to someone. It's sacrificial. The deepest experiences of meaning come when we give, not get. It's resilient to suffering. We want a sense of purpose that doesn't just blow away the minute life gets hard, and it's redemptive. We want to know that what's broken is not only endurable, but actually healable. And that's the story shouldn't end on the worst chapter. Now, which vision of reality actually gives you a strong sense of this kind of purpose that we're all longing for? Not an impersonal force or mere causality. That doesn't do it. Mindless causality can't do that. A reality where we were created by a God who by his nature is relational, self-sacrificial, and redemptive makes sense of our desire for a purpose that has all of those elements. Now, because your mind transcends your brain and the dominoes of causality, that means you have genuine agency to be able to create effects in the world that wouldn't have happened otherwise. And that makes sense if you're created by a God who is also an immaterial mind that can create effects that wouldn't have happened otherwise. And the fact that we share that capacity means that that's what it means for us, at least in part, to be made in the image of God. You can genuinely forge your purpose genuinely in this life through the passions and talents and imagination that you and I have. Now, in my worldview then, we have both subjective purpose in this life and an ultimate purpose in the life, in a life that is, well, hold on. We're sharing contacts now. So I get 15 seconds more. So in my worldview, you have both a subjective purpose in this life and an ultimate purpose that echoes beyond this life. And that ultimate purpose you are invited to is to have communion with the one who explains everything, who is the grounding of all the foundation. There is no greater purpose than there can be for that sense of communion with the one who created everything and infuses it with purpose. Those two kinds of purposes, a genuine subjective purpose and a genuine objective purpose, are better than anything I believe materialism can offer. So I just want to end going back to my friend. My friend who I mentioned at the beginning, who wrestled with whether his life had purpose when he wasn't able to help anybody or do anything anymore. When his material brain was frustrating his immaterial mind, his purpose wasn't contingent on what he could do. His purpose was grounded in who he was. And who he was an immaterial, free-willed being created in the image of an immaterial, free-willed being. If you're looking for purpose, and I assume that's why you're here, I offer you these two because they are the best ones on offer. Thank you.